many immigrants deal with their own thoughts.
Yep.
We talked about assumptions, and you mentioned that don't assume when you travel, when you migrate. It's the same thing for work. Project management. One of the things we say in project management, don't assume. Just validate and then go ahead. Now, people always say your best friend and worst enemy is yourself.
Yes.
And immigrants deal with that on a daily basis. One of the things is losing that confidence. How do you advise them to get the confidence back, and what to do to feel that I'm actually a worthy member of the society, I'm not a burden?
That's an interesting one. I think it'll come down to don't bite off more than you can chew in the first instance, right? And realize that you might have drawn something of a certain magnitude elsewhere and succeeded, but that thing looks different here for cultural reasons or whatever reasons, right? So if you're from a more hierarchical command and control type of culture, what you say goes, versus here there's a lot more negotiating with stakeholders and resistance, you're probably going to not succeed and you'll knock your confidence back. So whatever tier you're at, be willing to step down a tier or two to find your feet. But knowing at the back of your mind you still have those skills, it's the question of giving yourself a safe environment to fail on a small scale, if you do fail, or more to succeed and build up. But then when the time comes, you still can call back all those skills you had before, but now you know how to apply them. You know that you can't be as direct necessarily in the way you do certain things. You've got to navigate a different environment, different stakeholders, different mindsets. But you never lose faith because you know you've done it before, it's just the context is different.
This is amazing, and this is really good because I've talked to many people who came to Australia and they said, look, I used to be a manager in my own country, I'm not going to accept anything below that. This is a good point because yes, you were there and you have the capabilities. But that thing was different to this thing. So if you go for the same way, you won't achieve anything and you will be disappointed. So be willing to start a little bit lower, get familiar, and you're certainly qualified for that. Get familiar, and then your smart will take you to a different place when you can become a manager effectively in a new environment.
And you'll succeed quickly because you'll have confidence that you have the experience, but you can now apply that experience in a sensitive manner to the environment in which you're operating now.
That's great.
Right. And I think that's key because, like I said, I've bounced around countries and seen that very different, even within Europe, there'll be very different cultural mindsets. You go against a little bit stereotypical. If you go to somewhere like Germany, it's typically more structured, whereas some of the Mediterranean countries are a little bit more, say, fluid in their daily
collectivism kind of thing.
And the same here. Like you might come from a very more rigid society or hierarchical society, whereas people don't care about your hierarchical place, what school you went to, whatever else. After a few years, that means nothing. Right? Can you do the job? Can I trust you? Are you going to be a mate? Can you act like in good faith with me? And that's key. And again, that what's in it for me question. Know what's motivating the other people as well. And don't assume that you understand them. Ask them what they want. Right? But be humble, I guess, a little bit, right? Be humble because being humble is not the same as being lacking confidence. In fact, if you're humble, it's generally because you have the capacity beyond what you're doing at the moment, so you can afford to be humble. You don't have to shout from the rooftops about how good you are.
It's amazing. Look, I'm curious to know this one as well.
Sure.
I'm coming from a collective culture in which people get together, fun, lots of hugging, and then when people migrate, they think, that's not acceptable anymore. And when you have a conversation, I'll never forget, when I came to Australia, one of the things in my head was, back in Iran, I had a good sense of humor. I could go anywhere and entertain anybody easily. Came here, different language, couldn't translate anything. I was like, that's bad. That sense of humor is gone. Guess what? Many years it took me to realize, no, his sense of humor was there. It was just getting ready for the right time frame and right power to bring it up again. And that worked perfectly. Now, it's the same thing for the collective culture. People think, I just moved to Australia, which is more kind of individualistic culture. So that's not appropriate or acceptable. I always say that's not the fact, because Australia is an amalgamation of different cultures and it's appreciated. But it's your smart win to do what and then observe and learn. Now, in your career, when you dealt with lots of people from different cultures and collective cultures as well, like I would name it, Iranian, Indian, Italian, Greek, Spanish, how do you see that warmth or that collectivism helping the society and the working culture as well?
That's actually quite a big question, so I will try to answer. I think the strength here is I would say there is an Australian culture, right? We are, obviously within that there are lots of different ethnicities. The way I show is that Australia has a strong homogenous culture, but it's also strongly multi-ethnic as well. And there's a slight difference. I'm trying to be careful with the words here, but this is part of your culture, right?
Yep.
And you live that within that sphere at home and with family and extended family and so on. But there's also a set of common values that I think identifying those common values. In fact, you have a sense of humor. You don't take things too hard if someone says them to you. You have to be fairly thick-skinned. And I know in some cases that's hard because the nuances of language must be quite hard to understand. Like, I didn't have that barrier really because, like I said, it's essentially the same language and a similar mindset. But I can only imagine if you're hearing words and they sound like
just one word here and there can be misinterpreted.
No, it's like you're making a joke, right? And the sooner you can understand that people tend to have good intent towards you.
Yep.
Not everybody, of course, but then we'll have our failings. But I think that's the thing, is just assume, think that people have the right intent towards you. And again, like I said, if you have a sounding board, someone from your similar background, just say, I had this experience the other day. This person said this here and I felt offended. And they say, oh no, that's the thing they say about whatever. And I think just don't bottle it up. Find a way. The more you bottle it up, the longer you'll just stress yourself out. You'll think, oh, I didn't know this. And 2 weeks later, it'll be still on your mind. What did that person mean? What did I do wrong? You probably did nothing wrong. It was a joke, maybe at your expense.
Yeah.
Good, lighthearted humor.
And that comes with trust as well.
Yeah, yeah.
And the other thing was, I always encourage people to start acting professionally, regardless of where you are.
Yeah.
Right. Even from home, from professional community, just go professional as much as you can, because that will take you to a different level.
Yes.
When you're ready to become a manager, to feel more to get more responsibilities. Yeah. So that professionalism, the word itself, means a lot to me.
Yeah.
And specifically for an immigrant, to start doing that as soon as they can in their own career. Yes. Which is the exact same thing. Yeah. When you don't want something for yourself, you don't want it for anybody else.
No.
So have that kind of judgment in your head before.
Like a professional attitude comes with a set of norms, behavioral norms as well.
Yes, yes.
So, tone of voice, physical presentation, how you dress up in case. You can find that some cases, you're going to wear a high-vis vest and a pair of jeans, and you're not going to do that in a lot of organizations. You're there with your shirt and tie. So understand the code. The code is there generally for a reason. It helps set a norm.
Yes.
Now, you might necessarily like the norm, and that's fine, but then you don't go there. But it's indicative of what the expectations are. So quickly learn what is expected behaviors in terms of, like I said, professionalism, tone of voice, choice of words, formality of language. Some cases there is pretty chill tone of voice. Some cases there is a certain formality and even how you interact with your colleagues a little bit more. And to determine, just quickly find out that norm. But again, lean on people who've been down that path before to quickly, because the longer you'll be playing catch up for a lot longer.